Hello, dear students. This is Cheryl Avila, Mrs. Avila, presenting the work for Tuesday, April 14th. And as I showed you yesterday, I did have a week at a glance, and after talking to Miss Schumann and Miss Claire, the other science teachers, we tweaked a couple of things, something that's not going to be an assignment, and changed a couple assignments this week. So today, for Tuesday, we're doing Earth's Changing Climate Unit, Lesson 1.2. We're continuing what we started yesterday. I did post the lesson late yesterday, so I'm sorry about that. It was only 18 minutes long with the week at a glance, so it should not take you long. But if you'll watch the Screencastify video, that'll get you caught up on what we did or what you guys were supposed to do on Monday. I'm having to find some odd times to do the uploading and planning and everything. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning right now. So let's begin. So on Tuesday, you are going to be analyzing climate data, which is tab 3 in lesson 1.2, and trends and fluctuations, which is tab 4. However, doing these tabs without being in the classroom would be difficult. So these two topics or tabs will be done via this slideshow and Screencastify video. Then we're going to watch a video on global temperature variation. And then you're going to start working on Earth's Changing Climate Unit vocabulary assignment. And if you look on the bottom of the screen, I do have some notes there that if something is in blue, it means that you are turning it in via Amplify. And if something is in red, that means that you're going to turn it in Google Classroom. So I'm going to go to slide 11 right here. So here's the agenda for the day. Basically, like I just said, lesson 1.2, we're doing tabs 3 and 4 via this slideshow and video, so there's no need to log on to Amplify, and watching the video and then starting on the vocabulary assignment. And I said here with the Screencastify, I actually have to put it separate, so you'll have kind of 2 tabs you need to click on today. All right, so in this unit, we are going to be reviewing data on graphs. We need to be very good at reading and understanding the information on a graph. 2 vocabulary words that are important to understanding graphs are the words trend and fluctuation. A trend is an overall tendency in a set of data over time. The line on the graph can show upward or downward trends over time. So you'll notice the blue letters and lines right here. There's a blue line. This is showing that even though the line kind of goes up and down, overall it's increasing. It's going up over time. That is trend. So a trend is an overall tendency in a set of data over time. The line on the graph can show upward or downward trends over time. So again, that's that blue line. The other vocabulary word is fluctuation. The data line on a graph can also show fluctuations over time. Fluctuations are variations in a set of data. In this graph, the line is not completely straight. If it was just this blue line, it would be completely straight. But you see that it kind of goes up and down from year to year, up, down, up, down, up, down. Those are fluctuations. It's showing fluctuations. However, when you look over the whole length of time from 1880 over here to 2009 over here, the data line is showing an upward trend. So the fluctuations are the up and down movement. The trend is generally, is the line going up? Is the line generally going down? That would be a trend. It's so important when looking at a graph that you read the labels on the x-axis and y-axis. I know that we've learned this in math class. The x-axis is down here. The y-axis is up here. And if you remember at the semester, when you were taking your semester finals for semester 1, we talked about mix and dry and how you can make a Y up here if you were to add like a V on top, you could make a Y, and that's a good way that you could figure out which one's the Y-axis. The X-axis label on this particular graph is year. The Y-axis label is temperature in Celsius. The title is up here. It is Global Average Temperature from 1880 to 2009. The graph is showing us how the temperature has changed on Earth over the last 139 years. When looking at this graph that shows temperature changes since 1870, I see there are many fluctuations. The temperature goes up and down a lot. We have some fluctuations here, up, down, up, down, up, down. But the tendency or overall change is an increase in global average, this blue line again. If you only look at data from a shorter time, for example, from 1945 to 1950, which is in this circle right here, you might conclude that the temperature decreased, but that is just a fluctuation. If you follow the larger trend, which you could see by following the blue line on the graph, you see it shows an overall increase in temperature. This unit will focus on stability and change, an important concept in many science topics. Distinguishing fluctuations from trends will be an important part of telling whether something is changing or staying stable. Stable means unchanged over time. Determining whether something is a trend or a fluctuation is an important way that climate scientists determine the quality or strength of evidence. In this unit, we will focus on looking at data and deciding if it is a trend or a fluctuation. Doing this will help us decide how strong and convincing a given piece of evidence is. When people only use data from a short time period as evidence in climate science, it might seem like one fluctuation refutes or goes against the entire claim. However, longer trends are much more powerful indicators of long-term changes, and they provide much stronger, more convincing evidence. Data from a long enough time period to show a trend offers stronger, more convincing evidence than data from a short time period that only shows fluctuations. So we're going to look at some examples of this. Your first task as a student climatologist is to review data collected about ice melting or decreasing at the poles. Although there was evidence about climate change in the video from yesterday, it is important to be skeptical and review data carefully. The claim that Amplify is making right now is that the amount of ice at Earth's poles is decreasing significantly. Some researchers did not initially agree with the claim that an increase in global average temperature caused ice to melt because at first glance, not all of the evidence seemed to support this conclusion. You will look at the same data set the researchers looked at with the goal of determining why all researchers did not initially agree. So the question that we're trying to answer here is, why did some scientists initially disagree that overall ice was decreasing? So we have a graph, it's titled Graph A right now, amount of summer sea ice in the Arctic from the years 2002 to 2013. The x-axis is years, the y-axis is million square kilometers of ice. And looking at this graph, we see some fluctuations, goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down. The trend here looks as if it's a, what do you think? So we have some questions to answer here. What is this graph A telling us? This means we have to look at the labels and the title. And, nope, I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm going to have to switch this up here. Sorry about that. No, that's not what I wanted either. All right, well, let's go ahead and answer these questions. What is this graph A telling us? This means we have to look at the labels and the title. So this graph is actually telling us that the amount of summer sea ice in the Arctic, it's telling us the amount of summer sea ice in the Arctic from 2002 to 2013. How many years does this graph cover? Basically, the range is what they're asking for in math here. It covers 11 years. 2013 minus 2002 would be 11 years. Are there any fluctuations? You betcha. Yes, there are. Goes up, goes down, goes a little up, goes way down. Those are fluctuations. Around what years were the greatest fluctuations? Looking at biggest differences here, that would be 2006 to 2009 and 2009 to 2012. I'm going to go to this one so you can see the graph better. Okay, so here we have another graph, a different graph. This is graph B. Graph B, amount of summer sea ice in the Arctic, same topic, but it's showing us for years 1980 to 2013. X-axis is showing us years. Y-axis is showing million square kilometers of ice. What is the graph B telling us? This means what we have to look at This means we have to look at the labels and the title. It is telling us the amount of summer sea ice in the Arctic from 1980 to 2013. How many years does this graph cover? What is the range? 2013 minus 1980 would be 33 years. Are there any fluctuations? Goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up. You betcha. Yes, there are fluctuations. During what years were the greatest fluctuations? Ones I kind of notice here are this big dip and rise, big dip. There's a big dip here. So there's several, but we could generally say from 2007 to 2013, these were the two major fluctuations there. Are there any trends? Generally speaking, if we look at this, it looks like the trend is that the amount of sea ice is decreasing. So possible downward trend here. Well, what do you know? We have another graph, graph C. Okay, so graph C, we have amount of summer sea ice in the Arctic from 1870 to 2013. So a lot more years than the previous two graphs. X-axis is showing us years again. Y-axis is showing us million square kilometers of ice. So what is this graph C telling us? This means we have to look at the labels and the title. This is telling us the amount of summer sea ice in the Arctic from 1870 to 2013. My cat wants to teach as well if you heard her meow. Next question, how many years does this graph cover? What is the range? Well, we would subtract 2013 minus 1870, and that would give us 147 years. Are there any fluctuations? Oh yeah, there's a lot of fluctuations here. Goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up. A lot of fluctuations. So yes, there are many. During what years were the greatest fluctuations? I'm noticing a few big dips here, here. So greatest fluctuations, 1937 to 1945 and 1995 to 2013. Are there any trends? Generally, it looks like a possible downward trend. It remains steady until the 1990s, and then there's a downward trend for sure. We definitely see a downward trend here. Before then, it kind of stays steady. There's a big dip here, but definitely a downward trend right here. So how is the evidence on each graph, they were originally on cards, different? Each graph looks at a greater length of time. We started with a small chunk of time, then a longer chunk of time, and then eventually 147 years of time. Which evidence would be stronger or more convincing to climate scientists, and why? Basically, graph A, graph B, graph C, which one would be more convincing? If we hadn't analyzed this evidence to decide which graphs provide evidence of the highest quality, evidence graph A might have caused us to doubt the claim that ice is decreasing. Because graph A only covers 11 years, the fluctuations are big enough that we miss out on the trend of decreasing ice that we can see over longer periods of time. Graph C is the strongest evidence because it looks over the longest period of time. So the more data you have, the longer amount of time that a phenomenon is being observed, the more evidence you're going to have. The what word am I looking for here? The strongest evidence that you're going to have, because it's going to be more solid. You have more evidence. It's not just looking at a couple years, which could just be a fluke. All right, so now that we've looked closely at the evidence, we can be more certain that ice and average global temperatures have been changing, which leads us to this key concept. Although there are many fluctuations, there is a trend of rising temperature and decreasing ice on Earth since about 1880. Tomorrow we will investigate why that might be happening. Let's end this slideshow with a video that shows Earth's temperature over time. You can see the fluctuations, but the overall trend at the end is a much warmer Earth, and in the video it goes from blue to orange. So I'm going to press this. Okay, just an animation, no talking here. You can see the key in the corner where blue would be cooler, and it goes white, yellow, orange, red would be warmer. So I'm going to play that again. So it starts off a lot of blue, some yellows, a lot more yellows, some oranges, definitely a lot more yellow and a lot more oranges, and then a lot of places kind of ending up in red. Right, so now you will work on the Earth's Changing Climate Unit vocabulary assignment. I will need to put this in another assignment in Google Classroom in order to be able to return it to you later at a later date. Today, I'm trying to keep time on focus, about 25 minutes of classwork. Today, I want you to focus on filling in the words that are missing, and they are highlighted in yellow. So I have a picture here of what you're going to pull up and see. So the number one vocabulary is climate. It's missing a word here. If you click on that, you can type in your answer. And then weather, and then another word. We have to do it this way because otherwise people could just copy and paste. And the whole point of vocabulary is you becoming familiar with the vocabulary word and its definition. So we want you to actually read it. So in the assignment, there's going to be this assignment, and I actually named it Earth's Changing Climate Unit Vocabulary. So it won't be the same title here, but it's going to look like the same thing. You're going to click on it and fill in those words. You're also going to open up the glossary, which has it word for word here, that you're going to be copying. So there's 14 words. Make sure you complete each slide. There's 14 slides because there's 14 words, and I think Miss Claire had a free slide. You don't really need to do that. You don't need to do that. And the glossary will be in the assignment list. So to make sure everyone understands, you open up the glossary, you open up the assignment. Using the glossary, you're going to fill in these words that are missing on each slide. And when you are done, you're going to press Turn in Google Classroom. And at some other date, I will return it to you, which is a button on my side. And at that time, you're going to look for pictures that you will be putting into each slide. So you'll find a picture of climate and put it in. So today, I just want you focused on filling in the words, all right? If you have any questions, you can send me a private message in Google Classroom, or if your parents are on Remind, you can send me a message that way, or you can email me. So after you're done with vocabulary, you are done for the day. All right, I hope you all are doing well, and if you have any questions, reach out to me. Next week, I will try to do a Google Meet with you guys. Google Meets, not really for academics, could be used for that, but I'm going to be focused more on letting you guys connect with each other. I bet you guys are all missing each other. So kind of just keeping in touch with each other. And we are still working out the details for how to raise your Q3 grade. Okay, so we are working on it. Hope you all are doing well. Have a good day. Bye-bye.